if you can. You wake up in the morning, you have your coffee or whatever other stimulants gets you going. You turn on your computer and pops up your very own autonomous AI agent. You named him Goal Getter, or GG for short. That was very clever of you. GG reports to you what it's been doing while you were sleeping, and it's been very busy. You see, you created GG to run a business for you. The business idea is simple. Millions of people in the world are looking for simple, inexpensive, custom automation solutions. Some want a little script that helps them automate their home. Some want a morning routine automation where the alarm rings, their curtains open, the coffee maker turns on, etc. Some want their emails answered and sorted in very specific ways. Some want a thing that feeds their cat automatically. Other people want solutions for their business that are a little bit more advanced, requires cameras and tracking, etc. But the point is that people are lazy, people are busy, and you have developed quite a reputation for delivering smart and inexpensive custom automation solutions. One-of-a-kind automation solutions. People go on your website, they type in what they want done. They don't even have to know exactly what they want. They just type in something like, "My stupid cat keeps running away." Now, you respond within a minute or two with an exact plan of how to fix that problem, and multiple choices with different price options, depending on how fancy they want to get, starting from a simple tracker for your cat to an army of drones following it around everywhere it goes. They choose whatever option they want, and they provide a credit card for you to bill once the automation is done. You type a script doing the thing that they want. Maybe you have to order some parts like trackers or video cameras and have it shipped to their house. And then you record a quick voiceover with visuals on how to set it all up. You're kind of like the IKEA of automations. The instructions are great. They're brain dead simple. You made sure the documentation can be understood by anyone regardless of their tech background. If they can use a smartphone, they can set up the thing that you've made for them. If they run into any issues, you provide unlimited support through text, emails, or whatever they want. Once you send everything over to them, all the instructions, all the details, etc., you charge their credit card and you're done. But here's the key. You didn't do any of that. You were sleeping the whole time, remember? Everything was done by GG. It talked to the customers and figured out what they wanted. It brainstormed some solutions, told them where to put their credit card information, etc. Then it went to work building needed software, ordering the parts that were needed, and writing out very clear instructions for how to use the thing that it just built. It shipped the product, either digitally or the physical components that are needed. It handled the customer service. It made sure that everybody was happy, etc. Recently, you've been teaching it how to do marketing campaigns, and you're seeing some great results with that. It learned to hook people in with little free automations. Then it goes online to find whatever information about them that it can, and then it starts pitching them ideas that it thinks they will respond to. It produces content showing how their lives could be improved by these various solutions, custom-made, tailor-made to them. Now, your customers are ecstatic, and you are basically printing money. You don't do any work to run the business. Zero. The only work you do is on improving the agent, the autonomous AI agent that is running this whole thing. You work on optimizing it, on teaching it new skills. Now, you are aware that eventually people will catch on and these agents will be more commonplace and more available to everyone. But until then, you basically found an unlimited money glitch. GG. So my question for you is, when will this scenario likely play out? Never? Is it just science fiction? Is it possible 10 years in the future, 50? What do you think? What number of years will pass before a handful of people have something like this running? Now, on this channel, I've covered what various people in the industry think about this. Some of the people like the co-founder of DeepMind, top people at OpenAI, etc. It seems like the consensus that we're somewhere between 2 to 10 years away from something like this. Me personally, I have no clue. But like I've covered in multiple videos on this channel, the research out of Google, DeepMind, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Stanford, etc., it really seems to show that we're kind of close. Now, I always assumed that in order to be a part of something like this, you would need to have some sort of a background in machine learning, currently have to be living in San Francisco, and be employed by one of the big tech firms. But that's not necessarily the case. In fact, there's a clip of Andre Karpathy basically saying that he expects that the people who create something like this won't be the people in big tech, but rather it's going to come from a small group of entrepreneurs, hackers, etc. I don't know about you, but I am completely obsessed with this idea because it's becoming very obvious that, yeah, there will be this window of time when individuals are at the forefront of this massive AI wave, and they have the potential to have massive impact. And the example I gave was of a business making money, but it really doesn't have to be that. Education is the other really big thing that I'm seeing as a very interesting potential for this. So my goal in this channel is to 1, learn how to do all this, and 2, teach how to do all this. This will be one of many videos on this subject. This subject is kind of the whole point of this channel. I have no idea where to start talking about this, so I'll start with this. Let's talk about the skill stack.
Skill stack. The skills you need to start building.
What collections of skills do you need to be able to go after something like this? Because often it's not just one skill that you're going to need. In other words, it's not that you have mastery in just one skill. Really, it's being decently good in a number of skills that all of them kind of combined make you really dangerous at something. Here is, as far as I can tell, what you need to know. Take everything with a grain of salt. We are very early. Things are fluid. But with that said, this is what I would be learning right now. If you're already great at the skill, good for you. If not, consider spending an hour a day learning/applying this skill. Learning doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you feel stupid when you're trying to learn something new. That's okay. Sometimes I have to tell myself that I should be working or learning instead of playing BattleBit. What I do to kind of remind myself to get back into it is this. The fact that we are alive at the exact time when artificial intelligence is entering the world, and that we're in a position to be able to do something about it, to interact with it. You can say that we're here against all odds. Either that or we're living in a simulation and things are just kind of unfolding according to plan. But either way, this is kind of a big deal. Coding. So do you need to learn how to code? Yes. What language should you learn? Python. More and more people are saying that Python is the language of AGI. Python is powerful. People love Python, which is not something you hear said about other programming languages. Python has a huge community and is growing and expanding its abilities all the time. And that compounds. The more people use it for applications, the more people will jump on board, the bigger it will snowball, etc. Now, if you've tried to learn to code in the past and failed, or you simply decided it was too big of a task, I would urge you to try it again now, and specifically by using ChatGPT, GPT-4, to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. ChatGPT can produce code. It can explain code. It can tell you what to do with that code, how to execute it, how to use it, etc. It can tell you what third-party apps might give you the functionality that you're looking for. For example, if you want to create an application that texts something to your phone, ChatGPT will give you some ideas for how to make that happen. It'll give you some third-party services they can use to make that happen. If you have a big project in mind, you can have ChatGPT break down step-by-step kind of how to think about approaching it. Do this first, then do this, etc. You know how sometimes if you're playing a video game that's getting a little bit too difficult, sometimes there's an option to like just click it over into easy mode, and then the exact same thing just gets a lot easier, a lot more chill. That's kind of what just happened to coding. Some new software like Cursor, for example, are actually making coding AI first. So instead of typing in code, you start by prompting ChatGPT and it writes the code for you.
It's going to basically go through this step-by-step process of figuring out what the project actually needs from a structural standpoint and write all the starter code for you.
Over time, you start developing a list of prompts, like a library of prompts that you use to prompt ChatGPT to code for you. So instead of writing code letter by letter by letter, you have a collection of prompts written in the English language that you kind of rotate through to build your applications. And we're just getting started. Where this thing is going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, I can only imagine. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn how to do all this stuff yourself. But what it does mean is this. Back in the day, before you could build useful applications, you had to spend a long time doing boring stuff, reading, memorizing, etc. Now, you can start by building useful stuff on day one. You can learn as you go. For a lot of people, myself included, this makes all the difference in the world. Learning becomes an addiction. If you haven't ever coded a single thing in your life, please try this now. Open up Google Colab on one side of your screen and then open up ChatGPT on the other. GPT-4 really is the better coder, so ideally use that. So ask it to produce some Python code. Paste that code into Google Colab and hit play. You just created your first program. Now, there's still a lot you have to learn, but this allows you to quickly build and deploy stuff. And as you start trying to do more advanced stuff, you have to learn more and more about the language and all the various things that it can do. So with Python, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do things like automation, spreadsheets, web automation, social media interaction, home automation, image processing, expense tracking, and even automated stock trading. I'm not suggesting you do, but you could. So start by automating the boring parts of your life. Keep doing that, and one day you're going to wake up and realize that you're wielding Python like a samurai wields his katana. Next, we have prompt engineering. When ChatGPT just came out, I thought that prompt engineering, so the ability to write the right prompt to get the LLM, the AI, to do the thing that you want it to do, I thought that would be kind of like the ability to cast magic spells. As time went on, I kind of changed my mind. I thought that over time, people will kind of find the best prompts and we would all have access to them, and the AI would be better at sort of understanding what we're trying to do. And I thought that maybe prompt engineering wouldn't be all that important. Now that I kept learning about LLMs, kept using it, now I think that prompt engineering is kind of like being able to cast magic spells, like an arcane wizard that reads an incantation from his grimoire. Prompting the LLM in just the right way can produce amazing results. There were scientific papers published where the authors tested GPT-4 and found the results to be underwhelming. The reality was that they made silly mistakes when prompting the LLM. They didn't understand certain best practices, and their results were terrible. I replicated those tests in the video that I did, and GPT-4 passed with flying colors. You need to know things like chain of thought reasoning, where basically we ask GPT-4 to think through something step by step before answering. We need to know how to break up complex prompts into smaller chunks. And we need to understand certain limitations that these models have. For example, right now, there's no vision and there's no memory. By the way, when both those things get perfected, I feel like those will be the two last pieces that we need to start building autonomous agents like this. That would be like the starter's pistol saying, okay, go. Another thing to understand is that in ChatGPT, sort of that back and forth conversation that you're having with it, that's kind of an illusion. Underneath it all, you're still just giving it one prompt at a time. And what it does is it kind of tries to summarize the previous conversation that you've had with it, but that doesn't always work well. So if you go back and forth a couple times and it forgets what it said up here, or it says something different to what it said up here, that's not it being foolish, that's user error. And knowing little things like that will make a big difference in how well you're able to use these models. People who've spent hundreds of hours using ChatGPT often think that it's very intelligent and very powerful. As you use it, you start developing an intuitive sense of what it can do and what it can't. But prompt engineering is a big deal. Somebody that spent 1,000 hours messing around with it is going to have a much better ability to use it than someone who hasn't spent that time. Since the whole thing is a little bit of a black box, developing an intuitive understanding of it is often just a function of how much time you've spent using it. For example, I spent about probably like 10 hours trying to get GPT-4 to solve a particular problem for me. It was a reasoning test where you had to arrange certain pieces on a 3x3 grid following certain rules. It could not solve this problem correctly out of the box. But I found that if I explained certain terminology and I explained some of the assumptions that I was making, well, that allowed it to solve it. There was a very specific thing that I needed to do, that I needed to add, that added the capability for it to solve that problem. Now, if I encounter a similar problem in the future, I'll have a set of tools that I can approach it with to fix it and make it work. Now, this isn't going to be common knowledge for a long time. You know how when sometimes you call customer support to help you with something, the first thing they'll do is like, well, try restarting it. And you're like, well, duh, of course I've tried restarting it. That's like step number one. But guess what? That's not step number one for like 90% of the population.